He made Udoka Coach of the Year. The Boston Celtics' whole championship swagger was jacked from him.
Give Brad Stevens a ton of credit, because how many years was it relentless? Break them up. They can't play together.
And now we're seeing him rebuild his whole swag again.
Well, now tuned in to the Dark Times Challenge.
You like Ime Udoka's approach and mentality with the Rockets in terms of their physicality?
And Adams get locked up with one another. That's the last guy you want. He takes him down.
It's the way he played basketball, so I wouldn't expect him to coach any other way. You got a bunch of guys, young guys, who he can mold into that. You got a guy already who you added to that, Dillon Brooks, that plays that way.
I mean, they got Dillon crazy ass over there, being Dillon.
No, you were looking to write a movie too, but as Dillon Brooks and Kevin Durant get tangled up with Nick.
Technical foul on Durant. And 2 technical fouls on Brooks. And he has been ejected.
Already. Doesn't need your assistance I
was already gonna do it
in this way. So
shit anyway.
Yeah, no, they become that, man. They taking on the identity of their head coach. Yeah, I'm with it.
And if anybody was going to be with it, of all people, it would be Kenyon Martin. Kenyon Martin would have thrived under a coach like Ime Udoka, because Ime Udoka is about that action, as we all know. He hasn't backed down from anybody.
And like I said, as a corner boy, he knows what that grit looks like and what that, that intensity looks like. That face off with Steph.
Yeah.
Didn't he have one with LeBron?
He did have one with LeBron.
He don't give a
man,
don't give a
Called him the B word.
The this is, man, it's a players league and ain't no player above no other player. So I like his approach. Yeah. I like it a lot.
Fired up. I'd be fired up too. That's disrespectful. He just walked right into him while he's trying to take free throws.
Ime Udoka and LeBron James just got tossed out of the game.
Ime Udoka Coach of the Year. The Boston Celtics' whole championship swagger was jacked from him, and now we're seeing him rebuild his whole swag again in the West. I think it should be very appreciated, because the grittiness that the Boston Celtics have built has come from his pedigree down in San Antonio.
And I would have to agree with that, because the year before Ime Udoka took over, Coach Brad Stevens had that team at 36-6, finishing 7th in the Eastern Conference. And that was a team with the exact same players that Ime Udoka had, and they weren't even a top defensive team. And in comes Ime Udoka the very next year, same players. They got the 2nd best defensive rating in the entire league, and then on top of that, they got 3 players in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. And so no doubt about it, that's Ime Udoka's championship.
We talked about it last week, but even Ime just changing the culture in Houston so fast. You talk about what he did with the Celtics, that Celtics squad going on to win a championship with Missoula. Now coming with this Rocket squad, don't have necessarily that Tatum, Jaylen Brown, but you got Jalen Green, Alperen Sengun.
A lot of different
2 emerging young stars.
And you look at that scenario with them 2, and you got, Missoula and Udoka.
Yeah.
And then you got Mark Jackson, Steve Kerr. Like, if Mark Jackson gets another opportunity to ever coach, he could put players in position to look like Klay, Steph, and Draymond, as far as that mentality of what you need to do when you're on the floor. So Ime deserves a lot more credit than he's being given.
Yeah, and I want to shout out Dillon Brooks, because he kind of was in a weird situation when Memphis got rid of him, and people kind of were not high on him because of his over-aggressive play and things. Now you're kind of seeing what's going on in Memphis and how they kind of needed that from him. And now he's on a team where he's embraced more.
Dillon Brooks is one of those players that's been overlooked and somewhat disrespected within the NBA sphere, primarily because he upset a lot of LeBron James fans.
People out there that say maybe you shouldn't do that with one of the better players in the game. What were you thinking?
I don't care. He's old. But I poke bears. I don't respect no one until they come and give me 40.
And Dillon Brooks is an Ime Udoka kind of guy, because when he's on that court, he takes on a different persona. He doesn't care who he offends. He's not out there trying to make friends. He's not out there trying to take pictures together and swap jerseys after the game.
Rookies Anthony Black and Grady Dick exchanging jerseys.
He's somebody that's going to come in and he's going to do his job. He's the epitome of what a 3-and-D player should be.
Like how the Rockets looking to push here. Brooks, history. He got it again. He just tied a franchise record.
Dillon Brooks right now is shooting the same three-point percentage as Stephen Curry. Now, granted, he takes about half the shots that Stephen Curry takes, but nevertheless, he's shooting around 40% from three-point range. And then on top of that, he's taking turns with Amen Thompson, tasked with guarding the best player on the other team every single night. But I don't know that Dillon Brooks has this kind of resurgence or resurrection in his career if he goes and plays for another coach besides Ime Udoka. And Dillon Brooks has always been a respectable shooter. He's averaged around 36% from three-point range. But there was a stretch while Dillon Brooks was in Memphis. You had a lot of Grizzlies fans upset with Dillon Brooks taking away shots from Ja Morant.
Foul hogging ass nigga Dillon Brooks. What's this shit? Hey Dillon, what's up with you, bro? Hey Sharon, what's up with it? Sharon is turn, man. What? Yeah, you gotta pass that motherfucker sometimes, you hear me? You did that cost us the motherfucking playoffs, bro. You hear me?
And play really hard. And I think that's the environment Dillon Brooks needed, and he's been doing like really well. So I'm really happy for Dillon Brooks because the way Memphis got rid of him was not cool.
Still
paying weird.
But the Grizzlies did announce they weren't going to re-sign him.
It was weird. They was moving weird.
Like, you know, like.
And I'm not going to try to downplay what Dillon Brooks has done in the Houston Rockets jersey because he's definitely been the one to put in the work and to hone his craft and to continue to get better as a player. But on the flip side, I don't know if Dillon Brooks does this for any other coach, because a coach like Ime Udoka would let a Dillon Brooks take as many threes as he wants to as long as he's open. And as long as he's locking up and doing what he needs to do on that other end, a coach like Ime Udoka is going to let Dillon Brooks take any shot that's there for the taking. And that's the difference. You're talking about a coach that's going to build confidence, not just in his superstar players, player like Jaylen Brown and Tatum for the Boston Celtics, but he's also going to build up those players around them. And that's probably just as important, if not more important, when you're talking about building a championship team. And so I agree with the panel on this one. I think Ime Udoka definitely deserves Coach of the Year. And the Houston Rockets, man, I'm telling you, they deserve a lot of hardware, at least a lot of hardware consideration when you consider Amen Thompson, possible Defensive Player of the Year, possible Most Improved Player of the Year. He could win in 2 different categories. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's a possibility. And then when you talk about Coach of the Year, I think Ime Udoka should be at the top of the list. And even Executive of the Year, Raphael Stone. Not enough is really said about him. I think what he did with Brooklyn and those picks, swapping out those Brooklyn picks for those Phoenix Suns picks, he took a chance. He took a chance on the Phoenix Suns bottoming out, and that's exactly what they did. And now the Rockets are looking at getting a lottery pick. Right now, the mock draft has the Phoenix Suns drafting number 10. Now, we all know that could fluctuate. The Houston Rockets could wind up with a top 3 pick if that ping pong ball or the envelopes swing the right way. You never know. And now we're talking about a Cooper Flag to add to that team. And so you never know. But at the very least, they're going to have some options and a lot of flexibility come this offseason. And so from top to bottom, that whole organization deserves a lot of credit. And we're going to see how everything shakes out depending on how the Rockets do during this postseason. It's looking like they're going to have the Warriors in that first round matchup. That's if the Warriors do what they need to do and beat the Memphis Grizzlies. They're going to be facing up against Houston in that first round, and that's going to be must-see TV. That's going to be some drama. We all know how the last game went down, and so that's going to be a hell of a series. But let me know what you guys think on this one. Definitely go ahead and keep the conversation going on down below. And as usual, peace and chaos.